In this tutorial, I will walk you through the use of the Relational Modeling tool designed for describing, visualizing, and generating interactions in interactive art. You can access the tool via the link in the description below. The link opens up what we call a worksheet, which contains all key components of the tool and allows you to model an interaction within it. On the top of a worksheet, you can find some general functions of the tool. You can click on the About button to view a brief introduction of the relational model and instructions on how to use the tool. You can also access our publication about the relational model here. The tool is connected to a database that allows you to save a worksheet with all entered data. You can also browse the current artwork collection in this drop-down menu and select an artwork to view the described interaction. Typically, a worksheet includes a detailed description of an interactive artwork. However, if an artwork contains multiple different modes of interaction, each mode can be described in a separate worksheet. If a worksheet is loaded and all its entry fields are disabled, it means that the worksheet is locked for viewing only. You can create an editable copy by clicking on the Unlock button here. This does not overwrite the original worksheet. To open a new empty worksheet, you can click here. Show All Elements displays all elements and their types described in the worksheet. The list can be handy when the worksheet expands beyond the screen and you need a quick overview of all its elements. At the center of a worksheet are the input fields based on the key concepts: element, action, and communication, and the various descriptors for specifying each concept. If you're unsure about the input field, you can always hover over the text and a brief explanation will appear. You can also provide additional information such as URL to the artwork or other notes in the text area here. An element refers to an individual actor participating in the interaction. If multiple elements behave the same way, we describe them within one profile. Here you can specify the type and the role of the element and how many elements of the same type can participate in the interaction simultaneously. All text input fields are connected to a list of possible options based on the artwork collection in the database. You can click on the input field to view the list and type in letters or words to narrow down the suggestions. If none of the options suits the described interaction, you can enter new descriptions, which will be added to the list once they are stored in the database. For instance, we can specify a human participant as one element, and more than one of them can participate in the interaction simultaneously. You can also add and remove elements. We can add an art system as a second element, and there is one in the interaction. The elements perform different actions in order for them to participate in the interaction. You can specify the action here. Let's say the human participant can move and communicate in interaction, while the art system can play audio. An action can be intended or unintended for participation, and it can be initiated by the element itself, or if other actions are present, triggered by other actions as a reaction. For instance, the moving action of the human participant can be intended for participating in the interaction, while the communication among them is unintended. And they can initiate these actions in the interaction. While the art system plays audio intended for participating in the interaction, and it can be triggered by the moving action of the human participant. You can also specify the relationship between reactions triggered by the same action or combination of actions, if needed. The result and effect of an action is described as a form of communication directed at the same or different elements. A form of communication can be either direct, taking place between two communicating elements, or mediated, taking place between two elements via a third intermediate element. For instance, let's say the moving action of the human participant is directed at the art system and the communication is directed at themselves, while the audio played by the art system is directed at human participants. All these actions result in a direct communication taking place between the two elements. Furthermore, the moving action of the human participants triggers the art system to play an audio response. They can also use this to communicate among themselves, which results in a mediated communication via the art system. The configuration refers to a number of elements on both ends of the communication, and the count here refers to how many communications of the same form can take place simultaneously. Let's say one human participant can perform the moving action directed at the art system, and more than one of such form of communication can take place, while more than one human participant can communicate to more than one human participant, as well as more than one forms of such communication can take place. Similarly, one art system can play audio to more than one human participant, and more than one of such communication can take place. The access of a form of communication can be either private, which can only be perceived by the communicating elements themselves, or public, which can also be perceived by other elements and the general public. Let's say all forms of communication here can be perceived publicly. Finally, you can specify the effect of a form of communication, such as its functions and consequences in the interaction. Let's say this action is for initiating the interaction, while here is for socializing among human participants themselves. And the action of the art system provides a means of communication for the human participants. You can also add and remove the entered effects. At any moment when you are describing an interaction, you can click on the Visualize button to generate a visual graph of the entered description. The visual symbols depicting the concepts and the descriptors can be consulted here. You can use the visualization to have a quick overview of the description for inspecting and comparing interactions. If no visualization is shown, it means that important data points are missing in the description. You can also download the visualization as a PDF file for separate use. If you want to save the worksheet, please give it a unique and easily identifiable name. Let's save the current worksheet as Tutorial Demo. If a worksheet with that name already exists in the database, it will be overwritten by the current one. You can also choose to either lock the worksheet for viewing only, or simply save it to continue working on it later. This concludes our tutorial about the description and visualization features of the relational modeling tool. I would like to mention here that there's no right or wrong way of modeling an interaction. Feel free to tailor the level of details to suit your purpose and experiment with different approaches to find the most effective description. If you encounter any problems or have any suggestions about the tool, please contact me via the email address in the description. Thanks for watching the tutorial.